Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters by Anfield Index. It's a bit of a special one, isn't it? Because at 7 p.m. today, that transfer window will slam shut. Liverpool look like they've bought themselves a Jacquet, but they won't be able to use it until the summer. Will anything else get done in the meantime? That is a big question to ask. And we managed to get the person we need, managed to drag him out the Daily Mail offices. I know you'll be busy today, so we, of course, have got the renowned and the respected Steele. And Lewis, it's all right to say this. We're hoping you're going to have a busy end to the window, aren't we?
Yeah, I think it could be a busy end to the window. I don't think it'll be quite as busy as the end of the August window when they signed Isak and pretty much nearly signed Gay as well on the same day. But there are things going on, and I think they're still chipping away a couple. Maybe try and get a right back, but it does look more unlikely than likely at this stage. But they have sorted out their summer jacket.
Yeah, and we'll see if they need the Babel copter or anything else before the end of the day. I mean, a little bit, just before we get into all the transfers, because I know the chat panel's going to explode in a minute with certain things. I did actually want to take you back to this weekend, because on the pitch is obviously the most important thing as ever with Liverpool. And you tweeted saying last night, when it was Saturday, was the best I've ever seen Anfield this season. Helps that they won 4-1, but it felt loud, together and positive. I mean, it was a strange game a little bit in the sense of Liverpool weren't great for the first half an hour, but they just came alive after that, didn't they?
Yeah, and I think that is probably one of the biggest positives, the fact that they weren't great. And I don't mean that the wrong way. I mean the fact that they came through it pretty unscathed, to be honest. Well, obviously they went that goal down, but a few times this season we've seen them go behind or have a bad start in games and they've wilted under the pressure. Whereas on Saturday they didn't. They stood up to the task. They collected their heads. They said, you know what, lads, this has been a poor first half an hour or so. And then from there onwards, they were brilliant. And 4-1 in the end, it could have ended 5 or 6 easily. You know, some of the counter-attacks, it was like looking back last season, from minute 30 onwards, I don't remember Newcastle really threatening that much. Maybe they had the odd chance or two. And also Liverpool have started to look better from set pieces at both ends as well.
Yeah.
Which we have to whisper, because you know it only takes one for it to all fall apart again. But you know, Ekatike banging in the goals, Florian Wirtz getting better and better every week, and various other players looking back to the best. You know, Salah, you can say he's only scored 1 goal since he come back, but I think he's starting to look sharper. Although there are still, you know, several levels that he can get up.
Yeah, there is a lot of positives, a lot of individual performances there. Special night for Konate in the best sense as well. I suppose in terms of a night for a certain person, it's right for me to ask you about this, because this has obviously dominated the headlines recently. And you tweeted, what I'm trying to say is whether you slot in or slot out, both sides are fair. Just stop fighting with each other online or abusing other fans for not having the same opinion. As this window is set to end, all the noise that you've reported, all the briefings seem to be Arne Slot is in trouble, if that's the right phrase, or his job isn't under threat. And there's a full expectation this is going to run till the end of the season and then be reviewed, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think what I meant by that was, you know, you can criticise Arne Slot. You can dislike him all you want. And I sort of see those sides of the argument very clearly, as well as I see the other side of the argument if people do think that, you know, he should be given time to change things. But I think whichever side you stand on that argument, all the noise is that Arne Slot's going to be here this time in the end of the summer. So there's no point in fighting about it. There's no point in, you know, having a go at each other online. Just get behind the manager until the summer. Get behind the players. They could win the Champions League. They could win the FA Cup. They probably will get in the Champions League places. It's probably going to be top 5. So it still could be a very good season, or, you know, a very successful season. So it's just a case of get behind him now, and then in the summer you can have your argument whether you slot in or out then.
Fair enough. We'll see if anything rolls until then. But we have got you for deadline day. And I've got about 80,000 questions to ask you, regardless of what the Daily Mail are keeping an embargo or not. So the first one, and you knew I was going to start with this, you must be feeling a little bit chuffed that I actually had a check back on this, to be fair. And I have got you as the first journo to really sort of ramp up the stories around Jérémy Jacquet. And obviously, we know what we're happening today with the medical and different bits. But feeling a little bit chuffed with that one, fair to say?
Yeah, probably right. I think I wrote at the time that Chelsea were probably the leading candidates for him.
Yeah.
And I think really up until this time yesterday, they were still the leading candidates. So I'm not necessarily saying that bit was wrong. I think Liverpool, I don't know whether they've hijacked it because I don't know how close he actually was to Chelsea. But I think basically they've won it because Liverpool have sold him a better prospect of, come to us and you'll be in the first team. Whereas come to Chelsea, you've got 8 other defenders that they've signed in the last 2 weeks. I've seen them linked with some other defenders today. So yeah, I can't say I know much. I'm just going to shut this window because some workmen across the road. I am happy to be ahead of the curve on that one, and it looks like a good signing for Liverpool. Liverpool as well as me ahead of the curve with this one, getting it done early for the summer.
Yeah, I feel got a Naby Keita-ish feel. Hopefully it works out a little bit better than that, in all honesty, as I said that out loud. But I'm guessing all the Liverpool reporting, all the noise you're getting from the club is they do think this is a coup. They are pleased to get this over the line because, a 60 million deal, it's not chump change for a young centre-half, is it?
No, it's not. Especially when you look at Leone was half that price in the summer. I think obviously Jacquet has a bit more experience under his belt. He's a couple of years older than Leone is or was. But if you look around the market, this 2026, you're not really getting a top defender for under 50 mil. So, it's just what you have to pay these days if you want a top defender. He's 20 years old. He's got his whole career ahead of him. And I think we've talked to him many times about Liverpool's defenders. Yeah. Virgil van Dijk needs replacing sooner rather than later. And this is another step in the right direction to doing that. Obviously, we know about Konate as well. And I think it's just clever, just getting it done early. Obviously, everyone at Liverpool would have preferred if he was coming now. But I think basically Ren were basically saying, we're not letting him go. If you want him now, you're going to have to pay another 15 million or whatever. So, it's a good one. Another one for the future. You're now looking at the squad, and the average age is really coming down. If you look at all the signings from the summer just gone, and also, the defence, you've got Leone, but also going back further with, Szoboszlai and these sorts of people, they're all still young, 2 or 3 years ago now. So the average age of the squad is going in the right direction. There's still some experienced heads in there. It's another good deal for Liverpool.
Does look that way. Yeah, the average age, especially when you name those players like Wirtz, TK, is tumbling down in the best positive way. I suppose you name some of the centre halves there, and I don't know, but you get the feeling, whether this is right or wrong, that by announcing Jacquet, or that's set to be announced, I should say, today, there's almost that even more pessimism that Konate is going to commit. This feels like some even suggesting this is probably the Konate money or wages being freed up and doing this deal. Is that fair?
Yeah. I understand why people have that thought. However, nothing has been decided with Konate yet. Of course, it is February, and, you would have to say, judging by the Trent saga last year, maybe it's something to worry about, and it is something to worry about. However, he could just renew, and it could just be a case of playing hardball over the wages, and Liverpool will end up getting a good deal out of it. Because, this time last season, Van Dijk and Salah were out of contract and they're still here. Yeah. So I think everyone is presuming that Konate will leave. However, there's no real noise about where he's going. which makes me think that he could end up just staying. But that is just based on vibes, really. I've not really heard any info either way on Konate, other than the fact it remains unresolved. But yeah, whether Jacquet is a Konate replacement or not, I think they need him anyway, and I think they need a defender anyway, and they've done that now. Maybe they will need one more in the summer, but there's a lot of if, buts, and maybes without Joe Gomez comes into that as well. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, and Helio makes a good point there in the chat panel. Konate and Robbo's contracts run out. Van Dijk and Gomez will be the next summer. We know about the injury records for Gomez as well. This is a big job in defence. But at least this is a positive start on it more than anything. And in terms of other sort of rumours that are doing the rounds, this one almost, I feel like it links to another player we've got to talk about, but we can shoot this down probably. Because I know Marotta, Inter Milan's president, mentioned about Denzel Dumfries and Liverpool saying that's pretty much not going to happen. We can put a big cross next to that one. There's nothing happening on that one at all.
No, not as far as I'm aware. Was that Friday when those rumours started to happen? But, you know, I can't see anything with that. I think Liverpool may have inquired and just found out he was injured for a bit longer than they may have thought. And then Inter sort of had a pop at Curtis, as we know, and Liverpool basically told him where to go. However, there did seem to be a little bit of willingness on Curtis's side. So it'll be nice. It'll be interesting to see where that one goes in the future. He's not going anywhere today, but it might be one to watch for the summer, just in terms of, you know, people from the people at Inter's end seem to think that Curtis wanted to go there. Liverpool.
Right.
People at the Liverpool end don't seem to think that was the case. So it's, you know, it's one of them where it's one word against the other. So let's see what happens with that one. It'd be nice to see what Curtis is thinking himself. So next time he stops in the mix zone, I'm sure that will be on the agenda. Although maybe he won't stop in the mix zone because he knows that'll be on the agenda.
Yeah, true. Because if Inter think that, and I know you wrote about this as well. Spurs made inquiries as well. Is there just a worry with Curtis Jones now? It's the old "there's no smoke without fire." If clubs are making inquiries, they're getting some encouragement you'd fancy for elsewhere rather than just throwing darts at the dartboard randomly. And a year left to go, there is more of a question mark over Curtis Jones than ever, isn't there?
Yeah, I think I've just googled his age. He's 25, so he's not young anymore. No. He's obviously not old, but he's not like this young up and coming player anymore. This is his peak years are his next 3 or 4 years. And he, as we discussed last time I was on, I think he's still in that category where he has a few good games and then he'll just drop back to the bench. Yeah. And he seems to do it like once or twice a season where you think, do you know what, this is Curtis Jones's time now. And then all of a sudden he'll just be back on the bench for the next 3 or 4 games. Yeah. And he came on with like 5 minutes to go the other night. And you're sort of thinking, if you are Curtis Jones, are you happy with that? I know he obviously, you know, Liverpool are his boyhood club. Yeah. I think it would be different to the Trent thing if he did walk away, because he's not getting the game time that he may think he deserves. He's always like the 12th or 13th man, isn't he? He's one of the first subs that you'd write down, but he is on the subs bench. So maybe he just thinks he'll probably be looking at the fact he's just on the fringes of the England squad as well. Maybe he thinks that a move will be better for him, especially when Szoboszlai was saying yesterday how, you know, contract is firmly on the table, nothing sorted yet. We know they're in talks with Gravenberch's people. We know they want to do McAllister as well. So he might be looking at that thinking, maybe I can't ever force my way into the team. Similar to Harvey Elliott in a way, maybe in a slightly different level. But yeah, one to watch for the summer, definitely.
Yeah, and not in the good sense, really. And it's probably right to reference this just because you had mentioned it. I mean, if you're looking at on Curtis, as you said, we know Dominic Szoboszlai's commenting and saying we've had new talks, Gravenberch progressing. I know you mentioned even McAllister could be in the mix. He's probably looking at that and thinking, does that not just show where I am in the pecking order?
Yeah, I think so. He's the fourth choice midfielder, isn't he? He's also probably the fourth choice right back and the fourth choice everything. So yeah, he's probably looking at it, and I think he probably does have a decision to make because, as we say, he'll probably, as it stands, be sat at home watching the World Cup from Liverpool rather than being in America. And I know there's all this about, scouts not English, that sort of thing. But when you're a footballer, playing at a World Cup is surely on everyone's bucket list, or playing at
Yeah,
Euros as well. So, he'll be thinking about that. And as I mentioned, he is, not young anymore. He might be thinking his best chance of becoming a top player would be to go abroad. He might also look at Scott McTominay, who's gone to Syria. I'm
yeah,
not saying they're the same level, the same player, but he was also, a bit of a on the cusp of that level,
true.
now top level at Napoli. So maybe he looks at that. I don't know, but it's something to consider, as I've said, for the summer.
Yeah, and not in a good sense. That is going to be one to keep an eye on all the way through. And we know with Liverpool, contracts are never, ever straightforward whatsoever. So I know you mentioned there, in case people have missed it, Dominic Szoboszlai came out the other day and said, new deal talks from now on, it's not in my hands. There's no progression, but if the right offer comes in, then let's see. Hopefully everyone will be happy in the end. I'm doing my job on the pitch. I love it here at Liverpool. I love the fans and I'm happy here. Now, reading those comments and being honest, Lewis, that struck to me as comments of almost, I've been your best player this season. Make sure you pay me as such a little bit, because others got a big wedge last summer just gone, but also not in my hands. Is there a bit where probably his camp are just waiting to see, like, it's not guaranteed Liverpool are going to be in the Champions League next season as well, so let's just hold off on this?
Yeah, possibly. I think Szoboszlai has spoke to us, as in the media,
Yeah,
more in the last 6 weeks than he has done in the first 3 years that he was at Liverpool.
wow.
Now, I'm not that's great for us, so I don't want this to come across like I'm criticising him. I'm not. It's the opposite. I think that there must be something in there that he's thinking, if I keep putting talking about the contract in the media, or if I keep talking about, because I asked him about his leadership qualities, and he was more than happy to talk about that. I think he's almost making a little pitch to be the captain when Virgil leaves next the end of next season, probably. We can't say for certain he's not going to do another 1 year or something. But if you just look at the fact that the vice captain now is Robbo, he's probably gone in the summer. His backup is Mo. He's probably gone within the next 18 months. The one after that is Allison. He's probably gone at the end of next season
Yeah,
with contract. And then you're suddenly thinking Szoboszlai could be the man to be the leader. I think that he sees himself as that, definitely. And I think he wants to be rewarded as such with a good monetary package. He's on good money already, but
yeah,
I can't remember what exactly he's on, but he's going to want to be put in that same bracket as the top players in the team. And I think he would deserve it based on this season, where he's been the main man. But also last season, he was playing every week, and he was a big player then. He wasn't scoring the goals, getting the assists that he is doing a bit more now, or winning it, being the best player. But he was 7 out of 10 every week, 8 out of 10 every week. And you think when Vert signed, if you were making your best 11 on the day that Vert signed, there's an argument Szoboszlai wouldn't be in it. And now
true.
he's one of the first names on the team sheet. So yeah, I think he wants a new deal, and I think he will get a new deal. But does his contract run till 28? I don't think Liverpool are going to be in a massive rush to do that just yet. But I think they will have a little bit of urgency about them, and they probably should, judging on what how they let Trent run down his contract and things like that. Konate as well. They need to sort these contracts out earlier in the next few years.
Yeah, even after today, we're going to be talking contracts for a while because they can't end up in a position that they did the other time as well. And just on a few other players that I noticed this is becoming a story as well. Liverpool, as we know, are injury decimated. Yet we're still seeing reports today, and we think about who's played at right back already this season. I think we've used 5 different people. Calvin Ramsey has suggestions that he could still depart. I mean, is that what you're hearing? Is that still a possibility? I know Arne Slot didn't pitch him high in the rankings, but you do think we are threadbare.
Yeah, I think that if Geertruida had ended up signing, I think Ramsey would have gone out on loan. But the word about a week or 10 days ago was that he wouldn't go out on loan, and that was after the Bradley injury. And Frimpong's since got injured, so I wouldn't be surprised if he did go out on loan. But I think it would be the wrong move for Liverpool if he did. Just to have, he's an extra body on the bench. I know he's not exactly Cafu, but he can do a job if he needs to do a job. So I would keep him personally, unless they are signing a right back.
Yeah, which is probably where we've got to go next, and the one that everyone is messaging the most at in the chat panel, because this was you yesterday evening saying Liverpool's move for Geertruida is not a goer as it stands. Sunderland struggling to find a replacement despite the player wanting the move. Still 24 hours the window to go, but it's a blow. Now, the way you worded that tweet, Lewis, be honest, a bit Lenny Kravitz-ish. It's not over till it's over a little bit, this one, is it?
No, and it was the same yesterday morning when it became clear that they were pursuing a move for Geertruida. The word I had yesterday morning was that it was a very hard deal to do because, A, they needed Sunderland to find the replacement. Then they needed Sunderland to say, off you go, Geertruida. Then they needed to negotiate to cancel that loan with Sunderland and get some money. Then they needed to negotiate with Leipzig. And then he needed to come and do his medical and all that, all in 48 hours. It was always a complicated deal.
Yeah.
Sunderland have failed to get their midfielder or right-back replacement so far. I haven't checked to see if they've made any progress today. But the word as last night was that it was 95% off. But there's always a chance if Sunderland did suddenly pull pluck a defender off the tree, shake the tree, and a midfielder comes out, then it might be back on. Because I heard from someone who's close to a Sunderland player that he'd been going around saying his goodbyes. So I think it got that close.
Wow.
And I think, he really wanted to move, and why wouldn't you? But yeah, it's not happening, to be honest. I'd be very surprised if it did come back on, but I wouldn't completely rule it out, but 95% no. They had a little dalliance with other targets yesterday and the days before. There was about 10 names that got sent to me, and probably not worth going through any of them because none of them have really led to anything. But yeah, there was a lot of names going around. I think a lot of them are actually just people adding up 2 and 2 and getting 5. In terms of, this player's a right back who could be available. Let's put his name out there. But yeah, as it stands, I'm not expecting Liverpool to sign a right back in the next 7 or 8 hours.
Which is a bit of a worry for a lot of people, because I know you tweeted that about the active option. But again, it does sound like, of course, there's going to be lots of links, lots of agent talks and different bits on that. I suppose if no one else comes in before this window slams shut at 7 o'clock, can you understand why fans are going to be like, well, you missed out on Gay at the last minute. We kind of blew that one. We've said for ages we need a player. You've left it right till the end of the window, like the last day, to really accelerate with Geertruida. Everyone knew you were going to need cover. Everyone knows Joe Gomez is going to break down. It doesn't look great for the so-called smartest men in the room a little bit, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I came on this podcast in August and said people looked 2 men light. I think that was before this. I can't remember if that was before or after they signed Isak. But that was before I said they were a defender light, before Frimpong got injured. Bradley got ruled out for the season. Leone got ruled out for the season. Gomez, well, we knew Gomez was injury prone, but before Robertson nearly left in January. So even if they were fit, all of them, I'd probably still be saying they're a defender light.
Yeah.
especially with Konate's contract and Van Dijk's age. So they're definitely 2 defenders light as it stands now for me, because Bradley and Leone aren't going to play again this season. And I just think we talked at the top about how this could be a good season and they could go on to win the Champions League. But, you know, with the best team out, you'd fancy them to win anywhere if they turned up and put in a good performance like they did on Saturday, or like they did in the last 2 Champions League games, or even away at Arsenal.
Yeah.
But without say, with Konate, let's say one of them 2 gets injured, or another, just any of the back 4 get injured, you'd say they're a bit light, and then suddenly you're thinking that could be the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of making this a successful season or not. So yeah, I think they're threadbare, and I think that is the fault of the recruitment team. Now their fault would be that there isn't anyone out there. But really, if they could have pushed through Geertruida on loan, then I'm not saying that Geertruida is suddenly the answer to every problem, because if he was, he wouldn't be at Sunderland, with all due respect to them. But he's a body, and he's an experienced body who's played in the Champions League and whatnot. That could have been a good option or stopgap for 6 months. So yeah, that's a very long way of saying that they're very light.
They are, and you just feel it could come back to bite them. We might have to wait. Well, we'll be talking about this in the future, no doubts. Other rumours, because I've got to ask you about this guy as well. This keeps getting mentioned by a few. Fabrizio tweeted it out that Liverpool are in the midst for Alkmaar midfielder Kees Smit, 20-year-old Dutch, a number 8 by all accounts, very progressive. That, you know, a few clubs have been linked with him. Heard anything on this one? It just seems strange Liverpool are being linked with a number 8 at the moment.
Yeah, I've heard his name mentioned in the past, but it's one of them where it's like, you know, Liverpool and Man City and Arsenal, and you know, it's not saying Liverpool are leading the race. It's just saying they would be in the conversation for this lad. So yeah, I think they will be, but at the moment it's like a multi-team tussle for him. So let's see who comes out on top. But Liverpool are normally good at winning those races. But there's nothing more than that at the moment, as far as I'm aware.
Doesn't seem a priority. And then a youngster that keeps getting mentioned, and he seems highly rated. I don't know too much about him, but Josh Abe, probably the most notable thing he's done. He signed forms with Trent Alexander-Arnold's brother's agency, and there's been links to City. He's been famously at Real Madrid. There seems a lot of noise around this kid. Are Liverpool concerned they could lose him from the academy, from what you know?
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly as you say. I think Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, Real Madrid maybe are all keen on him. And if you've ever watched him play, you can probably see why. I can't claim to be a massive academy expert like the likes of Lewis Bower on Twitter, the sorts of people, because he watches every game. I only dip in and out. But from what I've seen of him, I think he could well be the most exciting kid in the academy right now. So there's no surprise that so many clubs are after him. And I think Chelsea's is a bit personal in terms of they want revenge for Rio.
Yeah.
Now, about 2 months ago, someone told me that at the time Josh Abe didn't have an official agent, and a number of agents were trying to get in with him to. Some of the agents that were close to Liverpool were trying to get in with him to, you know, convince him to stay at Liverpool. Tyler and PLG have got in now. A lot of people have this feeling in their head that Tyler is very anti-Liverpool. He's a Liverpool fan. And, you know, obviously some of his clients have left Liverpool, but he's also got the likes of Luke Chambers, who's having a good youth career at Liverpool. And, you know, Nat Phillips, who was there for so many years. Robertson, who could have ended up leaving this month but didn't.
Yeah.
So Josh Abe and Tyler will do what's best for Josh Abe, I think. And I think he would do that regardless of who the agent was. Josh, apparently, well, I think it's pretty obvious from his Instagram, he's an Arsenal fan. And I think, if Arsenal come knocking, then that might be quite tough for him to turn down. But Liverpool are trying to fight back. He trained with the first team last week.
Yeah.
And, maybe when he's 16, they might just, and it's not unheard of for clubs to just put players like this, giving them the debut in the first team, just to be like, look, you're in now.
Yeah.
And I think Chelsea have given people a debut and they've not been seen before. And also Liverpool might put, might put him on the bench for a few games to give him a taste, and that might persuade him to stay. But yeah, there's a lot of legs in that story, and I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how long it's going to rumble on for. Yeah, there's a lot of teams interested in Abe, but as it stands, he's a Liverpool player, and they will be doing all they can to keep him because he's very, very talented.
Yeah, it does sound like it'll be a scramble. Hopefully we come out the right side of that one. And as much as I'm asking you transfer questions, it's on the field that's most important. And this week, of course, Liverpool will play Man City, the Super Sunday. It's a huge game in both seasons. And Liverpool had a great win against Newcastle, but naturally, United won, Chelsea won. That top four, top five, if it may be race, someone's going to be left holding the bag, as it were, in sixth place. This feels almost like, and we've used this a few times because we've seen it this season. Is it a must-win for Liverpool as well as it is for Man City on Sunday as well?
Yeah, I don't know if you watched City against Spurs yesterday, but I watched a bit of it, and I couldn't help but thinking that City are a little bit like Liverpool this season, in that when they play well, they're like unbelievable, and they've beat Real Madrid, and they've blown away some other teams as well. But then they'll have games against the second half yesterday, and who did they lose? Someone they lost to about 2 weeks ago. I can't remember who it was now. And Bodo Glimt, obviously. Yeah. It was the derby the Manchester derby. And it's a bit similar to Liverpool because they will have games like the second half against Newcastle, or 30 minutes onwards against Newcastle, and they'll have games like the Marseille game and other games like that. But then they'll also throw in stinkers like they did in 2 draws against Leeds, and the Bournemouth game and the Burnley game and the Wolves game just after Christmas. So basically, they're both very good but also very bad at the same time.
Yeah.
So that should, in theory, make a really good game where it could end 3-2 either way or something. But I thought that going into the game at the Etihad, and City just turned up that day and Liverpool didn't. Obviously, the referee had the incident with the handball. What was it? Someone on the line, the offside.
Yeah, Robertson.
So, it should be a really good game, but it could also be a really bad game. That's my best analysis on that. But yeah, it's a massive game for both seasons because, City 6 points behind, Liverpool just outside the Champions League places. And you're thinking when they went 1-0 down on Saturday, Liverpool, you think that's another 3 points lost on Chelsea, who've just come back from winning. And then obviously United got that late winner yesterday.
Yeah.
So both of them two have all had big late winners. But yeah, I do still think Liverpool are better than both Chelsea and Man United. So what is it, 14, 15 games to go? I still would be very surprised if Liverpool didn't finish top 4. But what a way to start it would be to beat Man City on Sunday.
Would be huge. Yeah, that would be an absolutely perfect end to the week. It might still get better, but just in case you missed, because if you were asking, Lewis did say it is 95% off the Geertruida deal. You never know. There doesn't seem to be any other names, but we'll have to wait and see. Listen, I've taken up a lot of your time. I know you are mad busy, and I can see the mail have been buzzing you even while we've been talking. So all it leaves me to say, for the time, for answering all the questions, Lewis, it is massively appreciated.
As ever, thank you very much.
And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.